So you've mentioned digital credentials, digital badging. So let's dive into that a bit more. So in their current form, they've been around for at least a decade. But as we were talking to a joint friend at Scouts Australia, Jeffrey Lair, he flagged that they've been doing badging at Scouts for more than 115 years. So certainly a head start on the rest of the world. But from a technology perspective, lots of technologies follow the Gartner hype cycle, where they very quickly jump up to the peak of inflated expectations and then drop down into the trough of disillusionment, and then over time slowly creep up to the plateau of productivity. And I would argue that's where we are today, at that plateau with digital credentials, digital badging. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why do you think
I completely agree with you. We've largely been on this journey for 3 years in terms of digital credentialing, creating our own technology stack. The only sovereign provider at the moment, and we've ridden some of those waves. Interestingly, we've always sort of been in the vocational space. Is sort of where our heart lies. But we've had more success outside of that vocational space if we look at those 3 year periods relating to professional development activity, K-12, higher ed. And what we're starting to see now as we move into, as you coined that plateau of productivity zone, we're actually now starting to see more meaning and more commonplace application for digital credentials. And we're now starting to see quite a significant wave across that vocational space. I think part of that has been the ability to make it meaningful across that vocational spectrum, and being able to understand, you've got your accredited courses, you've got your accredited programs and your full qualifications, but then you also have these small pieces of learning, and those small pieces of learning can actually be digitally credentialed, so that they can stack up to a more longer form award. And I think part of that process around it becoming commonplace, becoming people wanting and understanding the power of credentialing has been really important. So I absolutely agree that we are in that part of the life cycle of credentials. And it's something that we're definitely starting to see a lot more of moving forward, and a lot more interests with, some RTO clients coming to us. Interestingly, sometimes they're a little bit frustrated that the compliance manager will come to us and say, a lot of our competitors are doing it. We know we need to do it. We don't really understand it. How do we do it? Which is great for us, because it allows us to sort of explore and unpack, well, why do you actually want to use it? How can we help you use it? And part of that knowledge transfer piece of being able to add value to that exchange is something that's very important for us.
Right. And you mentioned some of the different sectors that you work in. So do you see the same drivers across all of those, or some key differences in selected areas? And
so there are certainly different drivers at a micro sense. So from K-12, they've got unique drivers relating to how can we make the knowledge that a student has attained more portable, more verifiable, and almost looking at the concept of what does a fully rounded student in an experience look like. Then in vocational and technical, it's very much around how can we prove the individual competency, to use that word, of a proficiency of a skill, and how meaningful is that, and how can that be translated from a portability perspective. Same with higher ed, and then professional development is largely around what skill have they obtained, how did they obtain it, by whom did they obtain it, things like that. But if we look at it from a macro perspective, ultimately there's a common thread here, and that common thread is the desire to have that manifestation of lifelong learning, and having it as a verifiable pathway where an end user sort of has control or agency over how they move their knowledge that they've acquired through different parts of their life, and make that knowledge meaningful.